Hi, my name's Chris Lose. Thank you so much for joining us for Conversations with the Candidates 2024. This was a show originally created by Mr. Ralph Walker with the intention of us, the community here in Monrovia, getting to know the candidates that we're voting for. We see papers, we see signs on streets, and we catch names, but we really don't get to know who we're voting for. March 5th is the day. Lock that date in, set a reminder, do what you got to do, but that is the day we need you to vote. And so it is at this time my pleasure to introduce you to Edward Belden, who is running for city council. Edward, thank you for being here.
Hi, Chris. How are you today?
Good, man. Good.
Thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it.
For sure. No, thank you let me just start by saying thank you for throwing your hat in the ring. Thank you for opting in, if you would. It's everyone it's tough right now for people with jobs and two jobs and extra time or extra thing to do.
Sure.
This is a service, and I appreciate you caring enough to do that.
Thank you. It's an important job, and similar to yours and what you're doing. So this is really, really important what you do, and thank you for everything that you as a volunteer, staff, but and thanks to KGM in general for all the work that they do, all the staff here. It's amazing. It's an amazing resource that Monrovia has, and it's one of those extra things that make us special here in this as a city.
For sure.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So look, for the person who might have just got here to Monrovia, tell them who you are, where you're from, grew up, born, raised, family. Give us a go.
Sure. I was born right here in Monrovia. Well, technically I was born in Duarte, so right next to us at Sanitary Cedar Hospital, right? But born and raised here in Monrovia. My dad was actually raised here in Monrovia, and my grandmother moved here a long time ago. And she was actually a school teacher at Wild Rose and at Brad Oaks as principal, which we all know has just had unfortunately, a really, really horrible fire that had. But no one was hurt, so that's great. I had a pleasure going through Monroe, Santa Fe, and then graduated from Monroe High School.
That's cool.
Had a chance to go get a bachelor's degree, master's degree outside of the area, and just explore some other parts of the United States as well at the same time. And came back to Monrovia about 12 years ago after working in a few other locations, spending some time in some other cities around Southern California that aren't as special as Monrovia. And it's just great to be back here and, spending the time to give back to the community that's given me so much.
Cool, man. Well, so I see you out a lot. Different park events or whatnot. You are out. What do you? I know you're involved in a few things currently here in the city.
Sure. Yeah. So I do see you at a lot of park events as well. 'Cause I'm a community services member, which is essentially Monrovia's Parks and Recreation Commission. So we get to provide a lot of input and advise the city council and city staff on our park events, the programming that we have, like all those recreation programs, courses that are offered, the wonderful parades, and really opportunities to bring community together, and at the same time our amazing wilderness and open spaces like Hillside Wilderness Park and Canyon Park, which we all want to see reopen very soon. Yeah. And we've been really lucky to have so much new emphasis on our parks. Lucinda Garcia Park was reopened recently. It's just been transformative in the way it looks, and families can really appreciate all the new amenities that are there.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of work going on right now, even at Rec Park, just right next to us here, coming up in the future. And then, of course, amazing amount of work at Canyon Park to make sure that can reopen. And they're rebuilding some of the water infrastructure there and making sure that it's in really great shape when it reopens after the Bobcat fire and the devastating storms. But I'm also president of the Monrovia Parks Wilderness Recreation Foundation, and so we've been helping to augment city resources and help gather resources from the community. And so thank you to everyone here in the community that's given back and supported us and making sure that we can, put new signage at Canyon Park. We just raised money, more than $75,000 for the shade structure that went over the playground at Library Park. Yep. And that just opened in January, which is great. So kids can go out there during all times of day. Even when it's hot outside and have shade, right?
Yeah, sure.
And it's getting hotter, unfortunately, right? The climate's moving that direction. So this is a great amenity, even when it's rainy outside, like we just had a few days. It's just another opportunity for folks to get out there and appreciate that more hours a day, more times a day. And and one of the things I'm really excited about that I think is appropriate here for this area in terms of the youth center we're in, we have a youth scholarship program that provides any child here in Monrovia that qualifies or has some concerns about paying for some of those recreation programs. They can apply for that, and then money doesn't have to be a barrier for them to participate in those programs here that are offered by the city, or even they can learn a new sport. They can take a class to learn a new way of doing art. So those types of things I think are really important to this community. And it's one of the things as our organization, but there's so many amazing organizations in Monrovia. That's what makes it special too. So many people are doing great things.
And we got the little park coming up too by Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A, just recently named, and I think we were supposed to have a meeting this week as a little subcommittee about that. But we'll be talking about like how that theme is going to transform that little pocket park. That space to make sure it's a great amenity. It's been moving forward.
That's cool. So from that and the community work that you do, were there any mentors that from the political space now as you're stepping in and running for city council?
Mentors in political space. It's a great question.
Or anyone you even looked up to?
Sure. Well, I think growing up, my family was somebody I looked up to a lot. My mom was a nurse here. She took care of newborn babies at Huntington Memorial. And she's just a caring individual, the one that always give back. And her parents were actually missionaries in India and helped run a leprosy hospital, which is a really challenging disease to deal with, and it's one of those diseases where people get cast away, and so they've had stories of taking care of people that get kicked out of their family because of the disease, and they accepted them and became their family members and helped show them love. And then my grandmother as well was a teacher right here in Monrovia, and just that level of service is something I always look to, that they were willing to give back and make sure that. And show, I say, that's what it takes to make a great community. People willing to provide and ensure that everyone is taken care of.
That's cool. Wow. Some great role models, man.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
That's right? There's a lot, of course, out there in the world in general, but yeah, having somebody close to help instill that sense of duty and service is really important.
I love it because that's the genuine caring for people piece. Cool, man. I love seeing somebody running for council that has that built in. Who are some of the people behind the curtain? Campaign manager, people endorsing you?
Sure. So Monrovia is a wonderful city, fairly small. So I feel like it's nice to have a diverse group of folks helping me. So I've got a lot of friends and family that are helping along the way. I don't have a formal campaign manager, which I think is okay for our level of political action here. Maybe that'd be great, but I will give a shout out to two folks last time. So I had the pleasure of interviewing with you and about a year and a half ago, and Ralph Walker, of course, too, was great. But Brian and Kyle were really kind of some project or campaign managers for me last time. Great. And both of them just had some other life going on right now. So they're like, hey, we're still behind you, but just not as much time to put in for it. But I've got a lot of people helping me out. In terms of some endorsers, I have some colleagues on the Community Services Commission. Gio Leos is a great help supporter, of course, along the way. And then I've been really honored to be endorsed by many of the current city council members and mayor. So our mayor, our mayor pro tem, Larry Spicer, Gloria Crudgington, who's not running this year. And so she's endorsed me, as well as Dr. Tam McKelly and our treasurer, Janet Wall, and many other commissioners here in the city. And I think a lot of, from what I can tell, a lot of residents and business owners here as well. And it's I'm always humbled by that, because I want to make sure we have a great city and a great community moving forward. And I will work hard to make sure I can live up to those expectations.
No, that's great, man. The uncomfortable question, who is your largest financial contributor on the campaign currently?
That's a great question. Individuals, I have a few that are helping me along the way, as well as a few clubs. I was recently endorsed by the League of Conservation Voters, and they're providing a small contribution as well. Small, medium. I don't know. I mean, these are like $500 rent contributions, so they're big, but they're not a $5,000 contribution.
Yeah, sure.
Which is good. I mean, I think that most of my contributions are $500 or lower. A lot of them are like in the $100 range. There's also the Foothill Community Democrats, as well as a few other individuals too that have given about that level. So
Cool.
yeah.
And the question is to, for people who are watching to understand, like, all right, man, is he getting $50,000 from who?
Yeah.
And how did that happen?
No. I mean, it's a diverse calling of it's a lot of text messages of friends and family is what it is, and colleagues here in Monrovia and residents to say, hey, can you chip in a little bit? And I'm always impressed and happy when that happens. So it's very nice to see some people are supporting my cause, and if others want to join, hey, you still have time.
Awesome. Do you have a campaign slogan or like anything that you're running on?
Sure. Yeah. It's keep Monrovia moving forward. So the idea that Monrovia is in a pretty good place. We've worked hard to be here. I think that we should recognize and appreciate all the just incredible work that's been done over the years to improve the quality of Monrovia, from the types of amenities we have here to making sure we were like forward thinking and improving the corridor along Huntington. So we have all those new kind of job opportunities. Yeah. We have great schools, great people that work in our departments in our school district, and people that are looking out for our future. And I want to keep that moving forward. I also want to bring some new perspective at the same time. So I think that's really important. Things are changing fast out there right now in the world, and it's good to have an idea of what's going on and some new approaches to handle the challenges that are in the future.
With that said, everything can be improved upon.
Right.
Give me something that you'd like to see specifically Monrovia do better, or where it could do something better.
Sure. I think affordable housing comes to mind. I think that we have a lot of opportunities to address that. It's a huge problem right now. Affordability in general.
Yeah.
Everything seems to be going higher in prices, but nothing seems to be elevating as quickly as housing right now.
Yes.
And a lot of families are feeling it. A lot of families that would maybe like to even buy a house can't right now. It's almost about $200,000 you have to buy an average house out here in Monrovia or even Southern California. $200,000 is an income.
At least, you're gonna get something pretty small for $200,000.
Well, no, sorry, $200,000 is like an income for a family.
Oh yeah,
to be able to afford to buy.
Yeah, I was gonna say you might get a closet, and maybe a bathroom for $200,000.
Right, I think it's probably about $800,000 to $900,000 is like the normal price right now for an average price for a home. Almost $1 million right now for like a single family home, but there's condos out there, and that's extremely high. I think it's something that a lot of people forget is that that level is much higher than it used to be in terms of proportion to income. And that income level, 200,000, is really not where we are as a community. We may think that there's a lot of folks that way, but we're probably about 80,000 in terms of a median income here in the city. Maybe 90, but that's still not 200. So it's a big challenge to get there, especially folks that don't already have a house to be able to tap into some of the equity they might have that already increased. It's a challenge. And so making sure we find ways to create affordable housing units, especially for folks that are working families, and bring those in. We've done some of that on a small scale at one of the developments near Station Square. We need to just elevate it and really bring it to a higher level. And it's something we've done in the city in Monrovia in the past. When we were doing a lot of these redevelopment projects, we built affordable housing units even so that people would have long-term ability to rent or eventually purchase a house here too, on an income that would be that they could afford. Mm-hmm. And I think we need to remember that and look at ways to do that again.
It'd be helpful for sure.
Yeah.
What ideas do you have to help unsheltered folk here in Monrovia? Is it rehabilitation? What does that look like?
Yeah, I think it's all the above. We know it's a huge problem throughout the Southland. We're doing a decent job coordinating with our other colleagues, but we need to do more. And I think that it's all around. We have a great community policing department in Monrovia. They make sure that they're looking out for people. We have a good program. I think that's nice to see in Monrovia that helps Monrovians that are maybe about to fall into homeless to kind of catch them and help steer them to opportunities, but they even can't find Section 8 housing. They can't find housing even if they have vouchers. So that's a challenge. Like we need some more opportunities there for folks that are just about to fall out of their housing opportunities because of losing a job or medical condition, and have some of those here in Monrovia. I think that's important. We can do that, and that we can do that without. I think some people worry that you're going to diminish the quality of life somehow in Monrovia. And I don't think that's going to be the case. I don't think that has to happen at all. I think we can, as a society here in Monrovia, can work together and make sure that happens. There's been a new bill that just came through this year that allows churches to go about building affordable housing units on their properties. There's some conditions, of course, right, with that, which makes sense. But I think that just opens the door as well for another opportunity, because we already know that those organizations, those churches, those kind of communities have a chance to work, and they can help take care of some folks going through challenging things at the same time. So help provide those amenities. So that's the important part. It's a house, but it's not just a house. It's services to go along with it. You need to make sure that people have care, they have treatment from mental health conditions or some type of physical health conditions, and they can kind of get back on the rebound, right? And that's critical. And so I think that, and really just making sure we're building up that program that we have to make sure people don't fall into homeless. Because once you're on the streets, living in a car, it just gets worse and much more challenging. And the studies say that a lot of people that weren't even, the folks that we might think now are having either drug addiction or alcohol addiction are on the streets. It happened while they were on the streets and not necessarily before. So it's because you're trying to find some way to medicate, right, while you're out there and get through the day. So the more we can do to make sure we capture those and help those folks early on, the better off we are.
Yeah, definitely. How can we better serve our seniors here in Monrovia?
It's a great question. I serve on the Community Service Commission. We do great work in Monrovia. I think I'm always impressed by our staff and the programs and the kind of the events we host. But I think there is something we can learn from some of the other communities around here. Pasadena has like a senior center. Arcadia has a senior center. We have some good programming we have right now. Actually, it's about once a week. There's something to do, which is it's a great start. But I think it's just making it a little bit more known, which is hard. I mean, you're reaching out to a population that is challenging to get a hold of. But we probably know where many more of them are. I mean, there's a Meals on Wheels program, and so just making sure more of them are available to some more direct touches with those folks, so they know that there's a place they can go and hang out, and we don't have to necessarily have a senior center per se. Like that, sure you can have that, but it's the programming around it that makes the most difference, and just having options for folks. I personally also like to see some programs that are held outside for folks. So I think that's we forget that sometimes even just a gathering outside. I mean, we live in LA, so it's sunny most of the time, right?
But that's why we got beautiful parks and stuff like that.
Exactly. So go outside, and we don't need to build another senior center. We got a park, so just go out and have a little event outside for a while.
Sunshine is healing.
It is. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Measure K. We talked about this a little bit last election. The funds are still there. How would you like to see those funds allocated? I know we've been holding it. They wanted to work on Canyon, up in the Canyon.
Right.
They got the grants and stuff for that. So maybe now we could see some loosening up of funds. Where would you like to see Measure K funds go?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's I think you probably heard it from many people, making sure that Monrovia is number one priority, I guess, really, as City Council, is make sure our fiscal house is in order, right? And I think we're in a good place for that. So it's nice to make sure we have those reserves, but I'm just saying, it's building up right now. I think it's priorities. Like we should really focus on the priorities we have. Canyon Park was a big priority, and I'm sure there's some of that will have to be allocated to that, but probably not the whole amount. And it's something that's going to be reoccurring too. So I think it is time to look at some of those priorities. And I've already mentioned, I think affordable housing is one to look at. And that's not something that we have to even build our own development ourselves. I mean, we can bring in, there's nonprofit developers that will work in communities to help build those units, or we could work with some of our existing great developers here and work and find ways, like creative solutions, to add units to development as it comes through. So I think there's many ways, but I think that's something we probably should be spending a little bit of those funds on, or or finding ways to just augment that with other grants, but just it doesn't have to be the whole amount, but it could be a part that helps lead to other funding for affordable housing.
Cool. Redevelopment here. You grew up in Monrovia.
I did.
I know you remember the Man Six Theater.
Oh, yeah.
Round Table Pizza.
Spires. I saw you post about it. Yep.
Come on, Spires. But that whole area was cool. Like, we have Myrtle Street,
Yeah.
but I feel like that's kind of all we have here in Myrtle is Myrtle Street. When you would hang out, you kind of go, everyone shoots to Myrtle Street.
Yeah.
For growing as we have the streets we have, can't grow out but so far. For redeveloping certain areas, do you think that's important? Do you think that's possible to have other spaces in town?
Yes, I think it's nice that we don't lose sight of having that one space that we can all say is like our known downtown community. So having Myrtle as a significant part of that, I think, is important. It's great. I don't want to let other parts of Monrovia get run down.
Sure.
And I mean, growing up in the '80s, I mean, I remember those places being built basically. I mean, I lived pretty close to actually that I think it's the Huntington Oaks Shopping Center, right?
Okay.
So,
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, I used to go to Mann's, and I was walking distance for those areas. So that used to be my hangout with my friends for sure. But I think that it's okay that we have Myrtle as a main corridor for that. I mean, I think there's a lot of options and opportunity at Station Square to make that as another place to gather people together naturally. I mean, there's going to be a lot of apartments there. We need to make sure we have a lot of amenities there for folks, but they can come up and down Myrtle. That's great. We also have to make sure there's easy ways for them to get up Myrtle.
Yeah.
So there's a nice corridor that's friendly that you could walk and you feel like it's safe to walk in, or use a bike, or
cool.
use other ways to get around Monrovia. I think is important, and of course, I think continuing to make sure that those other kind of branches of development we have and along Huntington and are thriving as well is important. We don't want to let those languish. We just want to make sure those are elevated as well. And maybe it's by new housing developments. Maybe it's by just augmenting the stores and the retail that's there and the types of restaurants that are there. But I think we've had great success so far in redevelopment in Monrovia, and those areas are testament to it.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, those hotels came through, and it's a great benefit for people staying here. It's also a great benefit for the city. So.
True. As we get hit underneath, almost 7-minute mark right now, do you think the city council and school district could collaborate better? What would that look like?
Yeah, I do. I think that there's a lot of opportunity there for some work. I think to just meet together more frequently, right? I think actually the people know each other pretty well. I mean, we all live in Monrovia here. We all attend a lot of the different events and community gatherings together, and so we see each other a lot. And I'll say we because I'm community services commissioner, so I see those folks a lot and have relationships with them. And I'd love to continue that as a city council member if I'm lucky enough to be elected. And I do think there's more we can work on. So I think that there's some formal park use agreements that could happen in the future to make sure that we have kind of some of these opportunities where the community can use the playgrounds and the lands around the schools after hours, and that sometimes exists, and it seems like it's sometimes not formal right now, but it's been formal in the past, and so I'd love to see that come back and make sure that those amenities are available as kind of community parks throughout the year, and find ways that we could do that. I mean, I think there's great models that other cities have used to do that. And then other programs too. I mean, I think that we have, I haven't mentioned this really yet, but like I'll just take the time for a second here. My campaign's focused on 3 things. It's a safe community, a healthy community, and a prosperous community. And, beyond making sure our police and fire have the resources they have to make it safe, one key element though is making sure that our youth in the community have options to find creative and productive ways to spend their time, right? I mean, and so I think that's where the city as a whole can work together really well with the school district. We have a YES program, which does that a little bit as an internship program, but having more internship programs, I think, or building on that would be really important, something I'd like to see done, and finding some ways to bolster those connections with so that all youth in Monrovia, if they're a teenager, they can find something to do outside of school. And if that's our programs, or if it's programs from the Boys and Girls Club, it's just but making sure that there's those connections are made, and some of them already really are, but just kind of creating a little bit more consistency there.
Cool. And I know you said prosperous as well.
I did.
Any ideas on bringing more jobs and stuff like that?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I think yet again, Monrovia's in a good place. We are right next to City Hope. It's a world-renowned cancer facility. So the biotech fields are here, the science fields are here, the technical skills that they require, and I think Monrovia shows that we can do that from our schools as well. That's another way we can partner with our schools, is making sure that kids know what those job opportunities are.
Yeah.
And encourage more of those firms to come in here, as well as other firms that don't require maybe a college education, but we have some really high-tech manufacturing programs here and organization companies here as well. I think we don't celebrate them all. I mean, of course, we have Trader Joe's, so that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Monrovia's
But I just learned about our Trader Joe's like a couple years ago.
Oh,
I had no idea.
That we had the headquarters
And I
here?
would drive by it all the time.
Yeah.
I never knew what was in there.
They're quiet about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But that's the Monrovia selling point is the fact that whenever you're at Trader Joe's in New York City or anywhere else and you look at the label, it says Monrovia, California. What? Where's that? It's right
that.
here,
I love it.
And I think just working with our Chamber of Commerce to make sure we're just having those bigger connections between our city manager, who does a great job, and their staff that look at trying to bring in these other businesses and other opportunities to partner with larger kind of some larger organizations that may be around high-tech fields, and just making sure that we're in the mix and that we're attending those meetings and attracting those types of jobs here.
So good jobs. Got a question from the Monrovia High School Free Speech Club.
Okay.
How have you personally upheld the right to free speech?
In my opinion, the way to answer that is something I would the way I like to kind of work is by listening. I think fundamentally what we're saying when we have freedom of speech is to say, you're going to let people speak their mind. And the most important part of that, though, is that we actually take the time to listen to what they're saying.
That's good.
And I think that's the way I like to operate. It's the way I like to work with people. I like to let them tell me what's on their mind and not cut them off. I mean, sometimes I have a lot on my mind I want to share.
Sure.
But I think it's fundamentally really important that we listen to people and listen to each other. That's how we have a society that can work together and also accepts each other. Is to say, I hear you, I see you. Yeah. I want to help if I can and find ways to just realize that you're a person, you're going through things, and I'm a person, I'm going through things, and we should be able to share that together and listen to each other. And that's free speech, right? I mean, people are going to maybe something really, really on their mind because it's bugging them, so we should listen to them. We're not always like what we hear, right? But
you might learn something listening.
Exactly. Yeah. And you're not going to know if you didn't listen, right? So that's the way I like to think of free speech, is that we need to just keep our ears open. Now, I will say that hate speech is something I can't tolerate. So if it's there just to cause pain, suffering, and if it's coming from that direction, then no.
But I think we could be respectful in our speech.
Exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, at this time, is there anything, first of all, that was not mentioned that you'd like to talk about?
Maybe just one thing.
Yeah.
I did talk about a safe community. I talked about working with our police and fire department, but also having safe streets, which we mentioned briefly there, and youth. But a healthy community, I think, is really fundamental too, and that's where making sure that we look out for our local air quality and our water resources and our water supply, and something I have spent a lot of my career on. I've worked for local and national nonprofit organizations, helping to restore our forests and our watersheds, built green infrastructure projects, and at the same time creating programs for youth from underserved communities to find new career opportunities. And so those are some of the experiences that I've had in the past, and I want to make sure those move forward in Monrovia, and we do have a healthy community, and we all have a chance to find time to spend outdoors in our parks and our open spaces and with each other.
Yeah, I'm here for it. Well, cool. Well, now it is your time. Edward, if you could look into that camera over there, let the people here in Monrovia know why they should vote for you on March 5th.
Well, thank you for your time, Chris. Really appreciate it. I'm running for city council because I love Monrovia. I love the people, and I care about our future. I want to make sure that I put my experience and results to work for our community, and we find a way to have a safe, healthy, and prosperous community. And I think that I can use my more than 20 years restoring our forests, our watersheds, working for local national nonprofit organizations. But I've also started my own small business, so I know how challenging it can be to make sure that you pay payroll and that at the end of the day, your job is not over. That work carries through. I've also worked in city government, worked in the mayor's office in the city of Los Angeles, second largest city in the United States, for a while. And I understand when a big government can be effective, but when it can be inefficient as well. And I want to keep Monrovia moving forward by using my experience and results and that time that I've already had here as a community services commissioner to work with our city manager, our different departments, and keep Monrovia moving forward by doing that. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you again to all our candidates for joining us. Conversations with the Candidates 2024. My name is Chris Lose. It's been an honor doing this. Each candidate was reached out to and given the same amount of time to speak freely and let you know why you should vote for them on March 5th.